I'm going to really focus kind of on Heartbeat and the origin of why we created it, and then Mike's going to go into it. But Andy really gave kind of the starting point of that we wanted to understand the scope of what's going on in the classroom world around SEL and emotional health. And I know I come from the elementary classroom space where it's really just kind of built into things, but where we specialize is in the 6 through 12 space. And we wanted to get a really cool, just in-depth understanding of what do teachers and counselors want and need, and what is going on right now. And what was really, really cool was that we interviewed hundreds of teachers and counselors, and the science that, you know, learning is emotional and relational, and that relationships matter, was directly in line with what the teachers and the counselors said. I mean, they were the ones that were like, I wish that we had more relationships with our kids. I wish I could have better conversations. I feel like I could reach them academically if I understood some context of what's going on in their world, and that we could have some like middle ground. And so that was when we started realizing that in order to keep reducing stress from the classroom, we had to find out what those stressors were holistically and start serving those. And so that's when we started taking a look at how we can start impacting emotional health in the context of a classroom space. And so that's where Heartbeat starts. So what we're doing with the tool itself is we're collecting information around a student's emotional health, their personal backstory, their cognitive abilities, and tying it all into how they actually learn. What are those things doing that impact their ability to gain academic strides? One of the foundations of the product tools that we've gotten this amazing partnership with Digital Promise. So they've been around for a little over a decade. They actually came out of the Bush administration and were really focused on research around what actually matters to learning. And so that's where learner variability came from. And so it's all of the different web, this just giant web of context of what makes up a student's ability to actually achieve academically. And so we know that, you know, social emotional learning is a part of that, but it's so interconnected to all of these different things. And it's really an impossible thing to ask a teacher to not only understand and know all of these factors, but then to understand where each kiddo falls on them and then what to do about it in a classroom instruction space. And so that's kind of the problem we're trying to solve for, is figuring out how we can help a teacher understand, for lack of a better word, the pulse of their classroom and how they can actually do things about it. Before we kind of dive into the product itself, it's important for us to kind of give you the 4 pillars or the foundation of the tool, because when you set out to create something like an emotional health tool, you know, I'm sure more than any of us, how important it is to make sure it's really safe and a really intentional space for kids. And so the first thing we started with was the environment in the space. We wanted to make sure it was comfortable. You know, kids are spending every minute of their lives in technology, and so if we're creating a technology tool for their emotional health, it had to be something that was really connecting with them and that was driving, you know, comfort and motivation. And then the second is that research framework I just kind of described. We wanted to make it really, really clear that we were drawing from research and that the framework is really strong. And then the questions that we ask the students, they're actually written by psychometric experts and child psychologists. And there's a lot of intentionality there. And, you know, when we were working with them in development of these, the reaction was, gosh, just even asking them these types of questions are starting to create new brain connections and are therapeutic in itself. And then the last component is the feedback. We really wanted to make sure we were not just providing data for the sake of data, like a lot of other tools out there, or we weren't just creating more labels in the space. We wanted to provide something that gave students the agency and the ability to advocate and communicate for themselves, and then teachers the actions and things that they can do in order to support it. So they didn't have to do more work, that it was actually helping reduce that in the classroom. And so those are kind of our 4 pillars of, you know, where we want to keep the tool going. And, you know, I think what you'll really see in the demo that Mike's about to give.
So I want to start off by showing you the student side of Heartbeat and what this looks and feels like in Heartbeat. And I'm going to refer back multiple times through this demo to those kind of 4 categories that Kelsey talked about and why this would be a great supplemental tool to what you're already doing inside the district and close some of those gaps. So to start, again, I've got the student view up. They can customize this. We can change the backgrounds. They can change the shapes. And so what you'll notice as we go through the tool is that we're a very user-centered design focused ed tech company, which is a struggle for a lot of organizations. And it's already starting to prove itself. So you can really see that kind of place of comfort and motivation inside the tool here. It's very soft. It almost feels like a game. It's very fun and interactive. And the students are loving it. Just to give you an example, one of the biggest pilots we did at the end of last year, we rolled it out to a single high school in California, a very large district, a Thursday afternoon. They had the students use it in an advisory period the next day, and the students answered more than 13,000 interactions in a single high school in a day, all at their own pace. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So some of the struggles that you've got in implementing screening or survey tools, we solve that by making it a place where kids want to be, and you just got to give them the time to do it. So it's a very bottoms up approach instead of tops down approach, which is why we're getting a lot of the success. So essentially the students come in here. This is what we call the board. We recommend providing time to the students 2 to 3 times a week, 5 to 10 minutes per time. We're seeing all kinds of variations of that though. Advisory periods, a lot of districts are making specific time for SEL work and other non-academic type space. It works in all those things. We see it used for bell ringers or like drain off exercises in the classroom too. So there's really hundreds of different ways you can implement it and give the students that time. But when they come in, we just ask them questions against that framework that Kelsey showed you. So I often say yes when I really want to say no most of the time, and everything will be in the Likert scale. So all of these questions are very intentional. There's about 2,200 of them that sit under the hood right now, and that's always growing. They're built against that framework that Kelsey had mentioned from the Digital Promise Group, where there's essentially 48 factors, and then we have 140 dimensions that we show to the students in just a minute here. One of the key things you'll see is that I'm not forcing a student down any specific path. So this is really a place for student agency where they can come and understand and answer the questions that they want to answer. If they don't like anything that's on that board, they can refresh it and get a new set of interactions. And this is where we're really getting that love and buy-in from the students. That same school that did 13,000 interactions in an advisory period on Friday, students came back by themselves that weekend and answered an additional 2,500 interactions over Saturday and Sunday. So awesome. really powerful. Yeah, it's kind of the ultimate test if a kid's willing to do it outside of school hours. Everything, of course, is research-based. Psychometrics experts help us write this, along with educational psychologists. And what's really interesting is we've gone through peer review process to really tighten it up and make sure the interactions are excellent. Almost all of our psychometrics and educational psychologist experts come back and say, wow, this would be really therapeutic if this was all you did for the students. So the next piece then is jumping into what we call the pulse. And this is the first time where we'll give the student feedback. So like I mentioned, there's 120 dimensions, and that continually grows as we expand our framework as well, so that we can get down to an element where something's actionable and digestible for a student. It's very hard for a student or educator to say, group emotion together, or group anger together, or group, these very high level concepts that are very atomic. Makes it very hard to understand. And so this kind of spread is very helpful. So I'm going to click on, just as an example, emotional awareness here. And you can see for the first time this feedback that goes to the student. So you'll notice one of the things we do when we give feedback here, this pulse line, is that there's no red, yellow, green. There's no numbers. It's not normative. So I'm not ranking a student against another student. And those are very, very important factors that have come out of our research to help with growth mindset and to help the students understand and move forward. Andy talked a little bit about how some other tools in the space, particularly screening tools, can be weaponized, and that's where that starts to begin. You'll see the way we output these things, they're very non-weaponizable and in a very growth mindset kind of opinion. So when we come down, we'll give them very, very short clips. Again, this is the student lens and what we call insights. And you'll notice we start off with I feel statements. So it's very, very much about not labeling the student and not creating self-fulfilling prophecies. So we're thinking about emotional awareness here. If, let's say, they ranked on the other side based on the questions they answer about thinking less about feelings, I'm not going to come in and say, your EQ's low, or put you in this label or this bucket. And instead, we'll talk about the feelings that are associated to that and give them superpowers and challenges of that dimension. Another big one is that we talk about all the time that's very relatable to anyone with a background like yours would be like procrastination. Procrastination is typically viewed as a massive opportunity. When we talk about procrastination as a dimension, we'll talk about those opportunities for growth, but we'll also talk about maybe why that's happening and how you turn it into a superpower. We'll talk about the fact that maybe it's because you need to work on your ability to ask questions, and the reason that you're delaying or procrastinating is because you don't fully understand the task. So the lens of the educational psychologists that we worked with to create these insights are very powerful, and we get really, really great feedback. As an example, down at the bottom here, to make sure that we're highly tuned in providing valuable feedback to students, we ask them this question on every insight. And we get hundreds and hundreds of answers back from the kids. 90% of our students, and I'm talking about hundreds of responses, are answering mostly indefinitely that the insight we gave them feels like their life. So very, very powerful. We focused on really closing the feedback loop for the student in 3 different ways. What we found is that the majority of kids, about 75% of kids, take this introspective lens and actually prefer it. It's kind of their digital world. So a lot of kids love to come in, read, digest. We also give action. So like as an example, discuss past events, focus on your feelings, reflect on past success so they can see those and go action them themselves. But for those kids that struggle, like you're mentioning, or need a different type of feedback loop, we also give an educator lens that I'm going to show you in just a second so the educator can come see what's happening with classrooms or cross sections of the school or district. And there's a lot of benefits we'll talk about there too. And then finally, this button that you see here, we call this hand raise. So this gives the student the ability, also if I actually click it, to reach out to somebody that they want to speak to about this. So any teacher or counselor or educator that's loaded in with that status will show up in their list. And it really breaks down that barrier to entry. This came from a lot of feedback we got from people that have backgrounds like yours before moving to a district, where they were saying, hey, one of my biggest problems as a counselor or as a psychiatrist is that barrier to entry. Students are terrified to come into the administrative office and say, I want to talk about anxiousness. So we want to create that connection. So we close that feedback loop in 3 different ways. Switched over to the educator view just to kind of help move this along and where I think your mind is probably going. So that kind of tops down feedback loop approach is also very powerful for us. So this is the first lens of the educator view. So you can see I'm up in the dashboard, and then we also get the ability to look at specific dimensions or specific students, everything that you would expect from a drill down level. I'm not going to spend any time on that today. It's that's kind of par for the course for what you'd expect your educators to have. But I want to spend kind of the rest of the conversation on this main screen here, this dashboard, because this is what's going to be really relevant on the educator side of the house. So you can see we break down those dimensions for the classrooms into superpowers and challenges. I've only got 10 demo kids in this, so you don't see any challenges, but it's the same lens. It would just be different dimensions for where the classroom is struggling. But what you can see here is a quick glance at really what's going on. So healthy diet, doing very well in this classroom, in this cross-section of students, physical well-being, things about thinking. You also have the ability as for whatever educator, whether it's teacher, counselor, psychiatrist, however you want to cut your cross sections of the district, to set specific pulses or dimensions that you're interested in. So let's say social anxiousness is something that you're concerned about as a psychiatrist in the school, or one of the groups that you just hired. Current feelings of anxiety, focus and concentration. You can also come in and get your daily pulse on what's going on there. And then you also, of course, have the ability to come and click into it. So when I open up that specific dimension, now I can see what's going on from the left side of reporting feeling less anxiety to the right side of feeling more anxious, and see what's going on with your students. So when I look at this, I'm immediately very concerned about this student, right? This is a demo student, so it's student schools. It could be K. Johansson, and start to go create that connection, go have that conversation, start to plan lessons differently or look at your classroom differently. Like I mentioned earlier too, Shannon, we'll also give teachers that insight and action. So this is from a teacher perspective. So this is, hey, if you don't have formal training, one of the things that folks in your role have really had to deal with over the last year is frontline teachers. You know, if you go just get a teaching certificate and come straight into the classroom, you're not ready for these conversations. And so we've had a lot of power in having our education psychologists come give insights for the teacher on how to approach these and what may be going on in students' life that's creating that kind of reality. So another very powerful piece of data for the classroom. We'll also give you some examples of interactions that we're asking so that the educator can understand why is this happening for this student.